Hello everyone, and welcome to ForeFlight for Australia. In this webinar, we're going to show you around the app, discuss all of the charts, data, and documents included in ForeFlight now that it is a CASA-approved data service provider, and give you the tools to find more useful information specific to your operation. Our presenters for today are Greg and Kristina, who help pilots around the world with ForeFlight questions. Guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi everybody, I'm Greg McAllister, part of the pilot support team, also a working contract pilot in Western Australia. Previously worked Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, had some time in Canada and also up in the UK. And Kristina, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kristina Brown. I'm a fixed wing pilot. I'm certified in the US and Australia. I've been working with Greg for the last 2 years on the pilot support team.
Thank you both. Let's take a look at the topics that we're going to cover in today's webinar. First, we'll take a quick look at the history of ForeFlight, and that will be followed by looking at what all is included in an Australian subscription to ForeFlight. Then Greg and Kristina will describe how filing flight plans will become simpler with ForeFlight. They'll also discuss where to get information about alternates, as well as performance and obstacle information that ForeFlight can take into account during your flight planning. After that, we'll look at where you can find Airservices charts, data, and documents within ForeFlight, and touch on how you can find out if your avionics are compatible with the app. And at the end, we'll take a few questions submitted today and ask Greg and Kristina to answer them in Q&A. As we go through today's presentation, you're going to see several links to useful resources on the ForeFlight website. Don't feel like you need to copy them all down as we go. We're going to send you an email about an hour after this webinar ends with a full list of those and other useful links inside. Before we begin, you can ask questions using the GoToWebinar message panel on the right side of your screen. We'll respond in writing to as many as we can get to during today's presentation. As I mentioned a moment ago, Greg and Kristina will also answer some of them live at the end. If your question isn't answered during today's webinar, go ahead and send it to team@foreflight.com. If you encounter audio problems during today's webinar, we recommend joining from a computer and not a mobile device. This session is being recorded and will be accessible within the next 24 hours at foreflight.com/webinars. That page of our website is also where you can find our Getting Started with ForeFlight webinar, which is for new ForeFlight users worldwide. That webinar can help you get more familiar with the app and goes into more detail about how to navigate and use each tab at the bottom of the app. With that, let's get started. Greg, over to you.
Great, thanks Jay. ForeFlight is a mobile EFB founded in 2007, and it was the first aviation app in the Apple App Store. It started in the US general aviation market, and the markets serviced by ForeFlight now are personal aviation, business aviation, military and government aviation. ForeFlight offers ForeFlight Mobile for individuals, where you can install ForeFlight Mobile on 3 devices. For business, military and government sales, this is controlled by your administrator. We offer ForeFlight Web, where you can plan and file flights directly on your computer, and a full ForeFlight dispatch suite for advanced flight planning and dispatching worldwide. For all these products, we're offering constant updates, constant improvements, and releases on a scheduled basis. So what does an Australian subscription include? With our Australian subscription, all Airservices VFR and IFR charts are supplied at all subscription levels. Airservices procedures, Airservices documents, Airservices AIP supplements, Airservices ERSA documentation also included. Filing with ForeFlight in Australia. ForeFlight files your flight plan directly with the appropriate ATC authority, so there's no need to log into NAIPS, no NAIPS login required. Flight plans will not be linked to your NAIPS account, and we do not offer a no-send feature for testing. Flight plans can be filed 120 days in advance. So anyone who purchases the Australian data will enable Airservices maps and charts. The first thing to do is to start by going to More, Downloads, Region Settings, Australia, select all states and territories required, and once that's done, that'll set everything for download. And this will include in the aeronautical layer, but also you'll have the Australian VFR, Australian IFR low, Australian IFR high chart, and the PCA planning chart, which will zoom out a little bit there. You'll notice on mine I have multiple other regions, there's a ForeFlight staff member. Also included in the data, the Australian data, are procedures for all the airports. And I'll show you an approach there. These are also Jeppesen. This is where you'd see your Jeppesen linked account as well. And then further down, you'll see the Airservices charts. Airservices charts there. And back to the maps page. Just a note about Jeppesen. ForeFlight will be the replacement for Jeppesen Flight Deck. Jeppesen Flight Deck Pro will be unaffected.
All right, thanks, Greg. Now, to look at our next subject, which is alternates, we need to start first on the maps page, where I've planned my map. I've got my aircraft on the far top side, my performance profile set, my altitude. I've set my procedures. Now I'm going to send the flight to the flights page. Now that we've sent the flight from the maps page to the flights page, you can see on the left-hand side a whole list in chronological order of our flights, but our current one is now loaded on the right-hand side of the page. If you scroll down, you'll reach the alternate section. It's just above the aircraft section. Tap on this to view your choice of alternates. ForeFlight will list all the available airports nearby and give you the direction from your original destination to each one. We'll give you the forecast weather, which is from the TAF. We'll give you the length of the longest runway, the types of approaches that are available, the time it will add to your flight, and how much extra fuel you'll need. All of this is found by scrolling down and reading the suggested alternates for that particular flight. Just tap on the blue Add to Flight and the calculations will be made. As you scroll down, you will see the payload, the fuel, and this is where you will also see your alternate fuel calculated. If you have subscribed to Runway Analysis with ForeFlight, you will have already downloaded your obstacle data in the download section, and now you'll be able to view it. The takeoff and landing buttons in this section will give you your runway analysis for this particular flight under these weather conditions. Takeoff and landing data is available for all piston aircraft and for turboprops or jets under runway analysis. This is available for an extra additional add-on feature. The performance data in this section comes directly from the manufacturers. We have an extensive database of supported turboprops and jet aircraft, and while we don't have every single aircraft, we are working to support as many as we can. You can check to see if your aircraft is supported by going to foreflight.com, runway analysis, and checking to see if your aircraft is listed. ForeFlight takes the obstacle information from Jeppesen's worldwide database and includes the obstacles in this section. You do not need Jeppesen data to benefit from runway analysis within ForeFlight. Instead, you can just talk to us about purchasing this for your aircraft, or if you would prefer to try a 2-week trial, we're happy to enable that on your account as well. Over to you, Greg.
Thanks, Kristina. Now we're going to look at the rest of the flights tab. Starting at the top, we've got a quick reference, the distance, estimated time elapsed, ETA, fuel required for flight, the wind. So these buttons along the top, these aren't buttons, these are just quick references. Following down, you've got the nav log here. So if I tap on that, that'll bring up a nav log for the flight. And we can scroll down there and it gives us all the details required. And a small sketch, the ForeFlight diagrams of the airport layout and the taxiways. Next on is the briefing. If we tap on the briefing, it can't be in the past, so we're going to update it to the latest departure time. And that's just retrieving the briefing. So this will give you your vertical cross-section chart of the flight as you go down through, scrolling down, giving you the wind, temperatures and turbulence for the route. Any significant weather, which is extremely clear today. METARs, TAFs, SIGMETs, AirMets for the region. Scrolling right down to no TAMs. we'll go back from there. Moving across to files, this is available for our Performance Plus customers where you can attach files and save them with the flight. Moving down, you can see the departure. We've got the departure and destination tabs, and this is the runway analysis buttons Kristina mentioned earlier. Here we've got the alternate. We don't need an alternate today for this one. Moving down to the aircraft, flights, and we do have a route, and we can use the route advisor here to update that VOR route. We're going to select that, and we're going to update the flight level. Moving down, this is where you can add your payload for the flight, all your fuel details, anything you need to add extra for the fuel, any FBOs that you want to add to the flight plan, and then we proceed to file. So if we tap here to proceed to file, and this will be the form you're very familiar with, all the fields you're familiar with. So we've got the flight rules that can be changed in app, the flight type, general aviation for us, the aircraft, call sign, airspeed, knots, departure airport time, persons on board, and the route. Altitude, time and route, fuel aboard. Additional remarks, this is where you could put additional remarks. And we fill these out as required. All your different dinghies, emergency equipment on board, the pilot's name, pilot email address. A good feature here is you can add an additional email address just by either by comma, by putting a comma behind it, and then the next email address. So you can email this out to multiple people. And from here, you can use the share button, and this will send an ICAO flight form to wherever you'd like. You can save that to files, you can save it to ForeFlight documents, you can print it out if you've got a connected printer. Once we've completed and we're happy with our filing data, we press the file button. I'm not going to press that right now because that will file the flight. And from there, you'll have the ability to manipulate the flight at the bottom here. You can see it says not filed here. If that was filed, it would say filed, and it will give you a countdown to your departure time. And also enable a button here to edit the flight plan or cancel. And Kristina, over to you.
Let's have a look at the Airports tab. When you type in your either by identifier or using the white search box, you'll be given this page with the 5 tabs below. The info page has your weather, ground frequencies, tower frequencies, approach frequencies. More importantly, it has the relevant page in the AIP, and it will take you directly there. When you're finished reading the AIP, come back. We have the operating hours, contacts that you may need, features of the airfield, including the variation, time zone, and access. So this is quite a handy little tab to view. The weather tab, we have the meter. If digital ATIS is available at that particular airport, this is where you will view it, alongside the maps view later in the webinar. But all the current weather, winds in real time and plain English, and then winds at altitude, including your ISA differentials. We have runway information for you. We highlight our advised runway for use. Anytime you want to tap on and view the particulars of the runway, just do so. And the procedures associated with that runway are also included here. Otherwise, you can head to the Procedure tab. We have airport procedures, departure procedures, approach. Other is for visuals or noise abatement procedures. Approach procedures, if you have a Jeppesen subscription or you've purchased Jeppesen plates through us, they'll appear on the top. Otherwise, the Airservices plates that you're familiar with will also be here. If you are wanting to use perhaps a departure procedure from Essendon, you can tap on the map feature and send it to the map. The plate will then populate, and if I thought that was a little too dark, I could adjust the plate opacity. I could also determine maybe that's not the one I want to use, and I can always select something else. Or if you're given a different runway at the last minute, just tap on this black wagon wheel and bring up the other procedures for your runways. Also under the airport tab, we have the NOTAMs. We've broken these down into airport NOTAMs, obstacle NOTAMs, ForeFlight and Jeppesen NOTAMs. So for airport NOTAMs, we put future, today, and we also list past NOTAMs for your reference. Obstacle NOTAMs will reference older ones than that so that you can see the history of the NOTAMs in that particular airfield. You'll also be able to have a look at Essendon Airfield prior to even going out to the airport and have a look at what it looks like. We also have this at night as an option for you to view with the correct landing light system. The rest of the explanation on the airports page is pretty self-explanatory. We've got sunrise, sunset, the elevation, transition level, where it's located, what the current weather conditions are, pattern altitude, and a quick look at your frequencies and what procedures are available. I'm now inside ForeFlight's mobile document library. And here on the left-hand side, under the drives, you can see that I've selected ForeFlight. If you ever need to look up something under our mobile pilot's guide, it's here. If you need to look up the legends, the explanation, the checklist guide, how to do this, light gun signals, anything, check in this section. I would like to show you the Australia section and what we have available for you. The AD, the NR, we have the VFRG, we have the URSA. Anything that you need to look up, we have it all listed here. How you'll look it up after downloading it is up to you. There's a few ways. Use the search function, the magnifying glass, tap on search and look for anything in the document and jump to that page. You'll then have it highlighted, your search word, jump to here. We also have an annotation feature. You can tap on anything here, make a mark on the page. If you need to clear it, tap clear annotations, click done. We also have a bookmark feature. You can label it so that you can quickly find it later on by tapping again on the bookmark function. Your documents will automatically update as long as they're downloaded. You will need, and older versions of documents will be erased when the new document is loaded onto your iPad. Over to you, Greg.
Well, here I am opening the Scratchpads tab. Up here you can click New Scratchpad and choose the different type you like. Draw is exactly what it sounds like. You can just draw anything you need and clear it up here within the Scratchpad annotation clear. If you click to the left, this is where you can change your colors, the opacity and the thickness of your different pen. And I'm going to close that one and we'll give you the option of multiple pre-built templates for the scratch pads. For instance, the ATIS is quite a handy scratch pad to use. And you can fill out all your details for the ATIS as per. Apple Pencil is supported for all annotations in ForeFlight Mobile, including the scratch pad.
We'd like to take a closer look at the maps page here because this is it's a dynamic map and it's got a lot of great features that we need to whiz through. So first of all, I'm going to declutter it really quickly by taking and removing my flight plan. I have all the information I need down here on the instrument legend, and I can deselect that if I wish, or select it back again. I can change what I want to see on this particular instrument legend plan or not. Coming over to the far left, the top far left is the aeronautical layer. The aeronautical layer was built by ForeFlight to show your airways, waypoints, VORs, navigation features, and we can quickly take a look and see what is available on this by zooming in, seeing all our waypoints appear, VORs. I can quickly declutter what I don't want to see if it's just too much for me and I like a really clean view. I'm using the quick legends on the far left-hand side of the screen, which I have enabled up in this settings icon. It's that little gear icon at the top. Quick filters. I can also turn that off if I don't wish to have it up there, and some people like a clean map when they're flying. All of this can be set on this settings icon. You can go through at your leisure, choose your map theme. You can choose what airports you wish to see. Do you want to see seaplane bases, or is that totally irrelevant like it is for me? Do you want to see the fur boundaries? Yes, some people would like that. Show the boundaries, low or high. Go through, take some time to just set everything up and get it worked out for what you would like to see. Alerts is another one that I would encourage you to spend some time on so that you will hear and see it on ForeFlight. Back over to the aeronautical layer. So I would recommend that you keep that on while you're flying, but you then have the option, and remember your subscription and your iPad will look different than mine, but I think we'll put on the Australian VFR layer and the aeronautical layer. Whatever you decide, you could take off the aeronautical layer and just use the traditional chart. Whatever you wish and want to do. Absolutely your choice. If you prefer to do IFR charts, by all means, select the IFR charts. Everything is done in this sliding layer here on the far left-hand side. The right-hand side of this aeronautical layer shows your radar. We can enable this for our flight from Melbourne up to Bankstown. We have satellite, we have color IR. We have all these different options for you. Of course, we're global, so we would use the icing and global. We have NOTAM layers. Play around with it. The winds aloft is one of my favorites. I just use the slider on the far right-hand side of the screen to play around and see what the different levels are doing with my winds. Another favorite of mine is the flight category. So at a glance, I can see which airports are VFR and which are not. That tells me exactly where the weather is and how it's moving. Also, temperature is up here. Dew point spread if you want. If any PIRE apps have been put out, doesn't look like any here. Have a play around. You'll get to know what you like, not my personal preference, but your personal preference. So there's a lot to see on this maps page. If you need to bring up your flight plan to make a modification or an in-flight change, just bring it up here, tap on it, make your change. If you need to insert a hold, put the hold in. Whatever you need to do, it's usually up here. You can set your altitude, speed, and time, so you can make a crossing altitude if you wish to, using this function. Just tap on whichever waypoint you need to, maybe an off-track waypoint of your own making. Perhaps you would like to insert a procedure at a time that you haven't, so insert or view all NOTAMs if something has come up. My nav log for the flight is on this far bottom right here. And the last tab I'll show you is the profile view for our Pro Plus and Performance Plus subscribers. This feature is available. You can learn more about all of these by looking at our webinar series. Our Getting Started webinar is a really great one, and it will show you in depth all these little intricacies and what each layer does. ForeFlight has been designed to integrate with many of your favorite portable devices and your panel-mounted avionics stacks. We have guides in our pilot guide to show you how to make this connection, and we do have information on which portable units actually work best with ForeFlight. So if you could view the link instead of me going through each one here, you'll be able to see which ones we recommend to be used with ForeFlight. Look, there's a lot of ForeFlight that we haven't shown you today that we would love to, but we would be here for hours. So please, we invite you to explore it either with a trial or by asking us different questions about things that we haven't covered. We're happy to chat and to explain it to you. Jay, over to you.
Thanks, Kristina. Before we begin taking some of your questions today, I want to point you to some more links on the ForeFlight website that can help you learn more about the app. But like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to send a list of all of these links to you an hour after this webinar ends, so you don't have to copy them all down now. First, ForeFlight.com/Australia is a great place to start. There you can learn more about the Airservices charts, data, and documents included in the app, as well as many features of ForeFlight, including many that we didn't cover today. Next, ForeFlight.com/support can help you solve just about any problem you have with the app, whether that's looking at answers to popular questions or searching for information in one of our many guides. You can find all of those on that page. That third link, ForeFlight.com/webinars, is where you can find many of our past webinars. This webinar will also be posted to that page within the next 24 hours. I also want to mention our Getting Started with ForeFlight webinar again. It goes into more detail on how to navigate within ForeFlight and how to get the most out of using the app from pre-flight to in-flight, as well as post-flight. Lastly, if your question isn't answered during today's webinar, or if you ever have an issue with ForeFlight, reach out to our pilot support team at team@foreflight.com. Now, let's move on to some questions. And we've gotten a lot of great questions today. Thank you all so much for submitting them. Before we get into that, one of the questions that was asked a few times is about which features are available in different subscription plans. So one thing I want to point out here, and this is another link that I'll send you, is we have a page on our website. It's foreflight.com/pricing, and you can see the list of what is available in every subscription plan. So again, that's going to be in the email that you're going to get shortly, but I just wanted you to know that that's there. All right, the next question that we have, I'm going to introduce someone that we haven't heard from yet today. Josh Tomasabi is our Director of Product for International, and so he works with customers all around the world, making sure that ForeFlight has everything that pilots need. So Josh, the first question I have for you is, do you have weather imagery for Australia?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I'm going to answer a couple questions in this one. So we are currently working on weather imagery for Australia. I'm looking at a test version of it as we speak. So I hope we have that out soon for you all. That will also include things like the GAF that's being asked for as well. And there's a few folks who asked that during the webinar. So we'll have that out here shortly. Like I said, it's in testing at the moment, so just hold on a little bit longer and we'll get that out for you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Josh. The next question is for Kristina. I already had ForeFlight and I have FAA charts, data, and documents. How can I get the Australia region on my account?
Oh, good question. Okay, so just write into team at ForeFlight and we would be more than happy to switch you over to the Australian region. The Australian data was released with ForeFlight version 15.2. So if you have an older version on your device right now, you will need to update first to version 15.2, but write in to team at foreflight.com and we'll be happy to switch you to the Australian region for no extra charge, to switch you over on your existing subscription. Thank you, Jay.
Of course, thank you. Next question I have is for Greg. How do we do our NAIPs?
Everybody, well, the quick answer is you don't need to. ForeFlight takes care of all your filing directly with the ATC. So there's no need to sign into NAIPs. You can cancel and amend plans directly in-app, and this is done on the Flights tab of ForeFlight Mobile.
Wonderful. Thank you. Josh, the next question is for you. How does ForeFlight handle lowest safe altitudes?
Yeah. So right now, we don't have a lowest safe altitude calculator, which is another question we're seeing lots of here. So that is something that we're working on right now. You are able to see terrain information either by pressing and holding on the map, or turning on our obstacles layer as well. If you have Pro Plus or above, we also have a layer called hazard analysis that would show you information about what elevation and obstacles are going to be nearby on your flight. And that is available during planning as well as in flight, so that you can set it to a specific altitude and then see what obstacles you may run into. We are working on adding that functionality in. Again, early days here, less than a month since we launched in the region. So we'll continue to add support over the following months.
Great. Thanks, Josh. The next question is for Kristina. How can I add a hold in my flight plan or in flight?
Okay. Gosh, good questions today. Well, if Greg will show me his iPad and we can do it together, we'll bring up a basic flight. Perfect. Essendon to Bankstown. Now, anything that's in yellow, see how Yankee 59 is in yellow? That can be expanded. So we'll expand that, please, Greg. Now, depending on where ATC actually tells you to hold, if they give you one of those waypoints there, so if they say hold at Rivet or Terrell, Terrell, so press on hold. It's saying that there are 3 published holds for this airport or for this waypoint. If you want to do, if ATC clears you to hold as published, just click on the box up at the top saying set up as published and then add to route. If they give you something unusual, just fill it in quickly there and then press add to route. If you need to edit it, you would just tap on the bubble inside the flight plan route box, edit it. If you need to cancel it, you can quickly tap on that and remove it from the route. But it'll come up on your maps page for you to visually see.
Next question I'll take. Can you update ForeFlight from imperial to metric units? So I'll pull up my iPad so you can all see it here. And we're going to go underneath the More tab here. I'm sorry, I don't have my my little red dots on, but at the bottom right, if you tap the More menu and you go into Settings right here at the top right, you'll see all of the settings that you could have come up. There's a lot of them, but this filter bar is my best friend, and I bet it will be yours too. So you can filter and search for units, and you'll see this option comes up to adjust your units and time. And so all of these can be adjusted. Your time, your wind speed, pressure, temperature, visibility, and the list goes on. So any of those can be changed in your ForeFlight account. All right, the next question I have is for Josh. There seems to be some detail on the airports that are missing located in the country airstrips guide. Do you have any update on when broader aerodrome information will be in ForeFlight?
Yeah, so at this point, we don't have access to the country airstrips guide, but we are working on trying to get that information so that we can fill in more information for smaller fields. This is something that I don't have a timeline on right now, but we will continue to add this information in. Thanks,
Josh. Next question, and we just got a couple more here. Do you offer the ability to connect ForeFlight to a simulator like X-Plane or Microsoft Flight Simulator? It's particularly useful for training students. The answer is yes, we absolutely do. You can connect ForeFlight to many of the most popular flight simulator apps. We have several resources. You can use that second link you're seeing on your screen there, foreflight.com/support. We have great articles there that explain how to set that up. We've also done a couple of webinars on this as well. The easiest way to find them would be to go to YouTube and search for ForeFlight Flight Simulator, and those will come up. Let's see. The last question that I have today is for Kristina. I know ForeFlight is now approved for use in Australia, so do I now no longer need to carry paper maps, and would this pass if I got ramp checked?
Oh, okay. Important question. As we are approved, you would be able to pass a ramp check by showing them that you have the documents on board. You need, your other paperwork's in order, but you will still need paper charts if you're sitting exams. So you can't get rid of your Airservices subscription just yet if you're still progressing in your aviation studies. But yes, as we are approved, this will pass a ramp check. Thanks, Jay.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kristina. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Josh. And thank you, everyone, for coming to this webinar today. Again, all of these links, every link that you've learned about today will be emailed to you in just about an hour. So look for that. And this webinar will be posted on that third link on this slide, foreflight.com/webinars, here in the next 24 hours. So if you need to look back and reference it, if you'd like to watch it again, you can find it there. And one more mention of our Getting Started with ForeFlight webinar. It is a slower, more detailed walkthrough of the app itself. It's not specific to Australia. It's just how to use ForeFlight and many of the features that some we covered today, but many that we didn't as well. So that could be really helpful for you. With that, thank you so much for coming, and we're looking forward to see you on the next webinar.